All right, more on the falsifiability nonsense by Karl Popper, Science of Falsifiability. Um, Popper versus Isaac Newton. So we've seen what Popper says a little bit. So let's repeat some stuff from Science of Falsification. The following excerpt was originally published in Conjectures and Refutations, 1963, by Karl Popper. I'll put a link to this and maybe some quotes. In this little excerpt thing, he wants to distinguish between science and pseudoscience. And he claims and asserts he claims it is easy to obtain confirmations or verifications for nearly every theory if we look for confirmations. That's a quote and unquote. Quote, every good scientific theory is a prohibition. It forbids certain things to happen. The more a theory forbids, the better it is, unquote. A theory which is not refutable by any conceivable event is non-scientific. Irrefutability is not a virtue of a theory, as people often think, but a vice, unquote. Quote, every genuine test of a theory is an attempt to falsify it or to refute it, unquote. Quote, one can sum up all this, unquote, all these 7 things. One can sum up all this by saying that the criterion of the scientific status of a theory is its falsifiability or refutability or testability, unquote. Now, that still leaves up the question of what science is. He's just saying science versus non. But in this link, Karl Popper, The Problem of Induction. From Karl Popper, The Logic of Scientific Discovery, blah, blah, blah. We see that he thinks induction is invalid. It is not something that demarcates science. It is not really part of it. He thinks it belongs more in the empirical psychology or something, like how people figure something out, which is nonsense. There's parts of psychology that are like that we have to figure out. How are dreams related to other things? What is a dream? It would not be part of empirical psychology, what a dream is. But from what he's talking about, I think we'd want to see how human psychology is connected, how it's integrated, how these parts that seem so different are actually different versions of the same thing are all related and integrated, and how imagination, daydreams, dreams actually have some information conveyed in a certain way based on how our brain functions, which we don't know yet. But we don't know entirely. Mind, brain, how they work. But they're giving us information, and that's empirical psychology. However, taking something and seeing what's relevant and getting a concept and applying that into the scientific process is science, like it or not. And that's not what always happens. We have to look at things, form concepts, induce, generalize, find cause-effect relationships, and it's not all this imaginative stuff that could be under empirical psychology. Still, some of that stuff has to be brought into logic to be relevant, to be part of science. But throwing out induction and hence concept formation, and basically, since he talks about Hume here, I think he thinks that we cannot get necessity from experience, but it's obviously the case. And that's kind of the whole point. We can't choose how perceptions work, but we can choose our thoughts and change them, be going in a certain direction, stop, go somewhere else, all these different things. We have control over that. But you know, over the cognitive content, there's other things that affect it, of course. It's controlling context. You know, if we are thinking something and get knocked out by someone accidentally, well, yeah, then we're not, it stops beyond our control. It's within a context. But we control our thoughts within, you know, what people would consider a normal, rational context, not some nonsense. Some people might say, but what about this? But what about this? But what about this? Well, yeah, obviously. Let's be adult, please. But he doesn't have induction. He makes this mistake, as we said in prior videos. And he thinks that, as he says, quote, according to the view that will be put forward here, the method of critically testing theories and selecting them according to the results of tests always proceeds in the following lines. From a new idea, put up tentatively and not yet justified in any way, an anticipation, hypothesis, a theoretical system, what you will. Conclusions are drawn by means of logical deduction. These conclusions are then compared with one another and with other relevant statements so as to find what logical relations exist between them. Unquote. That's so much nonsense. You know, you make crap up, you test it. That is not science. Here, if people would dig in and see what Newton actually did, there they will learn how to do science, how to do something that can help them be better in their own careers, teach others, do good science education in high school or college, understand science on their own, study it and so on. Study it, practice it, teach it. What did Popper do? Nothing that I'm aware of. I'm not going to learn anything about science from him. What am I going to learn from Newton? Hell ton. Okay. Newton, in contrast, rules of reasoning in philosophy, natural philosophy he meant. You know, physics is a more modern term, but philosophy, love of wisdom, was people who loved wisdom, you know, would study everything known at the time as much as they could, and then things got developed so much, we got the different branches now, but it traces back to being part of philosophy. So Newton, okay, in contrast to Popper, Newton says, rules of reasoning in philosophy, quote, we are to admit no more causes of natural things than such as are both true and sufficient to explain their appearances, unquote. Nothing about falsifiability, that's irrelevant. He was focused on what's true. We don't make crap up and test it. That is a joke. That is not scientific. That's not going to get you anywhere. You need to know what you're talking about, be immersed in your field, and be able to see cause-effect relationships and build out of that. That's what Galileo did. That's what Archimedes would do in geometry. That's what Carl Friedrich Gauss did. That's what Newton did. Marie Curie, and then, you know, knowing about dogs, the dog whisperer, Cesar Millan, and then some people who deal with horses. They didn't look at convention. They looked at reality and the facts and the nature of the horse. Like Joe Camp has some good books on that. I'll have to put a link if I remember. The Soul of a Horse by Joe Camp. The Horse Whisperer guy. Mark Rashad. There's some good books. I'll put links if I remember. But they immerse themselves. They don't just make stuff up. Oh, hey, let me just make crap up and try to disprove it. No. You look at the horse, or as Feynman learned from his dad when he was young. His dad said, to know what a bird is, you've got to look at the bird. You've got to listen to the bird. You got to understand everything it does. You got to observe everything about it. He didn't say, oh, you just make crap up and try to disprove it. No. You look at the facts. You show it's true. You develop things out of what you know. You don't just randomly make crap up. That's loony. As Newton said in Rule 4, I'll go ahead and skip to that, then do the others. Okay, Rule 4, quote, in experimental philosophy, we are to look upon propositions collected by general induction from phenomena as accurately or very nearly true, notwithstanding any contrary hypotheses that may be imagined, till such time as other phenomena occur by which they may either be made more accurate or liable to exceptions. So, you stick to induction, rigorously done from the evidence of the senses, from experience. And then when you learn more, you see what a broader context is. Is this your context? Do you need to narrow it a little bit, Ashley? You made a mistake. Do you need to widen it? You got your induction correct. He says, by hypothesis, he means crap that was making up, I think, at the time. You had like Ptolemaic stuff done, which was not inductive. And people were saying stuff about arguing with Galileo that there have to be 7 planets for silly reasons. I forgot to put a link to that in the description field of the last video about like part 2. I didn't have room. Maybe I can do it this time. You don't make stuff up separate from reality. He's explicitly going against denying using an epistemological razor to cut out this nonsense of Popper. The stuff that Popper does is wrong. You do not just make crap up, notwithstanding any contrary hypotheses that may be imagined, unquote. Popper says, where was that? That, I wish I had that like marked in here. I'll put a link. But he says that you should be able to, like he talks about specifically that and similar wording. Things should be falsifiable by any imaginable idea or something like that. And again, I'll try to put that in the description field so you can see that and read for yourself. So I just have to go with my memory on that right now. Get an exact quote later. Not in here. I'm pretty sure it was in that one reading. Not in this one. But yeah, so interesting distinction there. How Newton, who did way more in science than Popper ever did, and who worked with inductions and actually made some, all red light has a wavelength in this range, whatever it is, like 570 nanometers or something like that. Something in there somewhere. I forget exactly. But all bodies follow the law F equals ma. All masses gravitate towards each other, whatever the cause may be that we don't know yet. He made some massive inductions, and he connected everything in the heavens with everything on earth. A great integration of all things, no matter time and place. Popper, not so much. So if we want to really figure out how science works, we shouldn't say, I can't figure out how induction works, it's too difficult, therefore I'm just going to deny it. And there's problems, they're insurmountable. Kind of like Popper said, it's silly. We should, and then kind of make up this deductive nonsense. We're just lost in our heads. We have to make stuff up. Nonsense. Galileo did not do that. Newton did not do that. Marie Curie did not do that. What we should do is look at what Newton did and figure out how he got things right. What was the logic of induction, forming concepts using mathematics and physics, not in all sciences, forming inductions, connecting things where falsification has nothing to do with it. Yeah, obviously you got to make sure you're right and things fit non-contradictorily, but the thing to not miss is knowledge has to be connected non-contradictorily into a whole. It has to be connected into a whole without contradiction. The contradiction isn't the only thing there. Popper misses the connection, and he misses what the non-contradiction thing anyway, and just looks at like falsifiability kind of in isolation instead of looking at knowledge as a total and seeing that things connect and they're true together, not that one little thing can be shown false. Then we'll do science better. But I'll have to dig in and try to find that thing later, that quote where Popper said, where you just make up like whatever thing can be imagined, basically. But, so instead of studying Popper or try to do that stuff, my suggestion is to say, look at what Newton did. Study Newton, see that induction and concept formation, classification, definition are valid, and figure out how that works. Then we'll know science. Be better, as I say, practice it more efficiently and better, not waste time on this like falsification nonsense. Understand that we want to look for contradictions and fit things together non-contradictorily, not just take things in isolation and try to falsify. We want to induce from the evidence of the senses at whatever level we're at, form concepts, things like that. So, let's please get rid of this like false Popper falsification nonsense and get real. Figure out how things work. Be scientific about science. Peace. Or peace. I'm looking at my phone too much now. Backup recording, real recording, if this thing will work as it should.